So like I was saying, y'all, old Crafty B, he stayed taking risks and doing things that could potentially get his motherfucking head knocked off, And I'm sure there's a Crafty B in every penitentiary in across America, Some dude who always gonna try to toe the line and be as slick as possible, out there playing poker with extra cards up his sleeves and all that old type of shit. So eventually, the lick we put together with getting the tobacco from West Yard brought over to East Yard some type of way, the COs got up on that and they ran into sales of a few major players, took a lot of cats to the hole. Luckily for Crafty B, though, he escaped. So he felt, he felt that job was kind of hot and it was time for him to get up out of there. So he ended up getting another job in the chapel as a porter/clerk. So CMC, they had like two chapels. One chapel was designated for the Jewish dudes and the Catholic dudes, and the other chapel, which Crafty B worked in, it was for the Christians, the Muslims, and the Indians. And now the Indians, due to their cultural and spiritual beliefs, they had an actual sweat lodge on the prison, and they was allowed to go in the sweat lodge, do their spiritual cleansing, smoke their tobacco, their peace pipes or whatever it was up in there. You know what I'm saying? And it had to be put up in a locker in the chapel or whatever. So okay, so now a couple months then went past. Me and my cellie, T-Roller, rest in peace, from Colton City, from the zoo. We in the cell playing chess. Now, around 11:30, 12 o'clock, we had to lock up for count. Now, at this time, count had cleared, so now we just waiting for the yard to open. Now the doors and shit is open to the cell. So we in there, we playing chess. All of a sudden, now just so happened, our cell was on the yard side. So you could come from the yard and holler up to somebody's cell, and they had windows that could open. You could throw shit out the window and all this type of shit. So anyway, Crafty B come. He like, hey, roll up. So we sitting there playing chess, and T-Roll just ignoring him. I said, hey, man, don't you hear the homie out here calling you? He like, oh, man, fuck him, man. Excuse me, but he's steady out there. Roll up. So T-Roll say, man, what? So he get up and he go to the door. He say, man, who the best? Crafty B say, who the best? Roller say, man, I don't got time for this shit. He say, who the best? So now I get up, I walk up over there. I look down, we like on the second floor. Crafty B is standing there. He got his little state jacket on, He say, Roller, who the best? He opened his jacket up. This dude got like 3 or 4 big giant ass bags of tobacco and shit. Like 30, like probably like a 64-ounce bag and shit. He say, man, hurry up and come get this shit. So T-Roll, that motherfucker fly up out of that motherfucker. He hurry up, run downstairs. He come back with the tobacco and shit. He like, man, yeah. He said, Crafty said, make you a cone, give you a cone for 50. I think the cones normally go for 75. And what a cone was, basically, it was an empty toilet paper roll of tobacco. So what we do, we stand that motherfucker up. We would drop it in there, not stuff it, just continuously drop the tobacco in there until it got to the top. And then that was going for $75 out there, So he said, yeah, make him one up, sack up the rest. And I guess Crafty had somebody who was going to sell the tobacco for him. He said, and he said, man, look, he said, don't let nobody know this tobacco came from him or whatever. So, okay. So I go to making my cone, now fuck all that just dropping and fluffing that shit up in there. I'm stuffing the hell out of my cone. I'm stuffing. So, T-Roll looking at me like, chill, man, you gonna do that? I said, man, fuck this motherfucker. I said, man, this motherfucker been whooping us for about 3-4 months, man, stealing our tobacco. He was like, oh yeah, you right, huh? So like I said, I made me a fat ass cone, I stuffed that motherfucker as much as I could, stuff, all this motherfucking tobacco he got. So we do that shit and get him back to tobacco. Now he have somebody else go sell the tobacco. He took in there. Now when I see him too later that day, he said, hey, chill, man, make sure you don't tell nobody, the tobacco came from me. I'm gonna have my boy slanging it for me. I said, man, don't even trip, it's all good and shit. So now when I ran out of tobacco, maybe because I would have somebody roll the cigarettes for me and then sell the cigarettes. The cigarettes was like $3 a holler. And then, like I said, y'all, I would get them ducats. I would stack the ducats up and shit. Now, I might end up with 500-600 ducats up in there. So sometimes I would go buy a $100 bill for $180 or whatever it was, because it was easier to conceal and hide, And then in the event I needed some ducats, I could always go resell it. Because like I said, if you get caught with more than 50 ducats, the police gonna take it. They had some crooked ass police. They might take, 200-300 ducats from somebody and then go sell it to somebody else for a $100 bill. They had a lot of scandalous shit going on up there. So that's why I would go buy the $100 bill. Or sometimes what I would also do, like I told y'all, some people had restitution, and if they send money, the state is gonna take 55% of that. So they would come buy ducats for me. They, maybe want 50 ducats or 100 ducats or whatever it was. I would have them have they folks Western Union the money. Once they give me the number, and I'd have my people go get the money from Western Union, check and make sure it was there. Once it was there, then I would get him in 50 ducats. So like I say, man, it was a lot of good hustling going on up at that motherfucker or whatever. So I ran out of tobacco a couple times, and I would go back to old Crafty. He didn't want to sell me no more. After a while, he said it was all gone. So I'm like, hey man, well look, go get some more, man. I got a couple $100 bills. He would always be smiling. He was like, oh yeah, well that was just a one-time lick. That was just a one-time lick. And I noticed, I didn't know if I mentioned earlier that the tobacco kind of had like a minty smell or something to it. So I would be asking him from time to time. I say, hey man, where you get all that tobacco from and shit? He'd just go to smiling. He's like, oh man, I got moves, man. I got moves and shit. So he never would tell me and shit. I'd ask him periodically and shit, And so, because I thought he might have hit the lick with one of them guards or something. Because like I say, man, this shit was in some bags. This was some shit from the street in some big ass bags. So, from time to time, I say, hey man, I got a couple $100, man. But he was like, oh, he'd always be laughing and smiling. But he never would actually tell me how he came up on the tobacco and shit. So, maybe about 4 or 5 months later, one night, we out there on the yard, we chilling and shit. Just me and him, we out there chilling and shit, And so I asked him again. I said, hey, Crafty, what's up, man? What's up with the tobacco, man? Where you get all that shit from? So he go to smiling like a motherfucker. It just tickled him. He said, hey, man, well, one day when I was at work, talking about when he was in the chapel, he said, I took my key and I started just trying other people's lockers, the locks on their locker to see if the key would fit. You know what I'm saying? He said, so he's steady going through these lockers. He ain't finding nothing. This dude get to the Indian's locker and he put his key in there. The key fit. He opened it up. They got all their religious tobacco up in that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? They tobacco for their spiritual cleansing and they sweat lodge and all that shit. So he took all that motherfucking shit. I said, is you serious? It tickled him. He said, yeah, man, I stole all that motherfucking shit. I said, man, if them dudes had found that shit out, they would have scalped you. They would have scalped you quick as a motherfucker. They would have used the skin off your ass to make a new teepee around this motherfucker, because when they would be out there in the teepee, you could smell that shit, coming when they be in a sweat lodge. You could smell it all over the prison, You could smell of the tobacco and shit. Oh, man, it just tickled him. He was giggling like a motherfucker. I said, yeah, man, them Indians, they would have had a powwow at your motherfucking ass, boy. You would have been, you would have been man down around this motherfucker, He was giggling and laughing, man. I said, that's where you got that shit from? I said, Crafty, you's a cold motherfucker, boy. You be taking chances and shit, So, yeah, it just tickled him and shit, So I told him, man, you better be careful around this motherfucker. Now, a lot of motherfuckers gonna be like, oh, chill, well, why didn't you discipline him and do it all that type of shit, man? I'm not just to go tell on the motherfucking man. You know what I'm saying? But it was some funny ass shit, So anyway, that's the end of my story, man. But Crafty, he was constantly taking chances, man. I think around 2010, somewhere 11, he ended up leaving and shit. And I don't know if he'll. Matter of fact, I'll probably end up looking him up, man, and see if he's out by now. Because like I say, I ran across him in 1989 in juvenile hall, and he had been locked up all that time and shit. So anyway, man, that's my story on Crafty B, man. The dude, if you don't pay attention, man, the dude is liable to get you, man. And it's some motherfuckers like that in the pen. They always take chances, regardless of the circumstances, But anyway, man, that's my story on old Crafty B, man. Y'all stay up, man, and resume normal program.